Panders, Orphans, Trash, Scum, Freestylers. These 5 nicknames are used to describe the Clanless, the Caitiff, or do they actually? I am your law and saviour, and this is the bloody guide to Vampire Roleplay. The Caitiff or Catiff are often referred to as the Unbound, for they are unbound from traditional kindred traditions and biology. They are vampiric in nature, but are not bound by a trio of blood-paced powers and common banes or compulsions that forces them to act towards their more instinctive nature when the beast does not get its own way. They are unwelcome in most sects, untrusted by some, mocked by all, and bringers of the end times to a depicted antagonistic bunch. Whether they feel proud or shamed of their lack of lineage, it is an experience that brings only hate and loneliness, except for the found families they choose to have, assuming they are so willing to trust others of their ilk, harbouring the same prejudices that keep them locked out of kindred societies. Immediately, it makes the gene pool as limitless as one's imagination. The existence of the Caitiff is almost accidental in that few kindred go to embrace someone willingly seeking out a clanless vampire. Accidental embraces do occur. A sloppy feeding scene gone wrong is a common excuse for such a creation, one that could explain the accountability for some Caitiff. Some clans, such as the Bruja and Gangrel, are known for their carefree attitude for their embraces, ones that are devoid of meaning and passion, two themes that make up the kindred existence, dating back to the times of Cain's curse. This rushed, passionless job, as it were, could also explain the existence of some Caitiff. The transfiguration was incomplete, so to speak. The Caitiff are usually of a higher generation, so you could argue that the blood of the individual was not strong enough to complete the change, causing it to spread and becoming something else entirely, like a cancer but in reverse. These are all theories and ideas, mind you, and you're not to be taken as the truth, but as someone's truth to explain away their lack of love, affection, or just attention from their sire, or a means to hide their traumatic experiences. The embrace fucking them over twice, once for killing them and once for doing it one. There is, however, no real sure way to create a Caitiff unless your sire is a Caitiff themselves, but we'll return on to that in a moment. Caitiff embraced by those who were content enough to stay to teach them the basics the child in question know something is not quite right with their supernatural outfit, despite their sire's hopes. Sometimes it is obvious, like a Nosferatu without the disfigurements, La Sombra able to see its reflection, or her Carter that does not cause agony upon engaging the kiss. Sometimes it is less so, like a Malkavian is not overwhelmed by the stimuli from all perceivable directions, a Toreador without a concept to obsess over, or a Ventru not on a special diet. Some would naturally develop some of their size skill sets just through the means of education. A Banu Hakim would probably instruct the importance of obfuscate and administer their presence, so it is worth considering who the clan of the Sire is and what they saw in you. What were the skill sets they saw in you? What were the tell signs that something was amiss? How do they view you now, with great disdain, or trusting you only at an arm or fingertip away? Now, this sounds like regular character creation questions, treating the Caitiff as a social status, which is absolutely spot on. Being referred to as a Caitiff has a lot of political weight to it, but very little of it is good. It is possible for a regular clan member to be such a colossal fuck-up to their bloodline, they can be denounced of their clan and treated as clanless, which to most in the Camarilla is a fate worse than death. Though I will mention for the purists that this is mainly an older edition thing, but there is no reason why small V20 and revised edition details can't be introduced to the most wicked of 5th edition neonates. In more modern 5th edition settings, many actively seek others to embrace others. Thematically, this is the end times. Gehenna is coming, our Beckett would argue, cyclical. There have been instances where numbers of Caitiff and Duskborn numbers have swelled, and it's implied that this is the largest bolstering of numbers to date. It is arguably the most dangerous from the perspective of the Camarilla, paranoid of the influx of the Clanless, more individualistic and chaotic than before, which isn't to say there are mindless monsters like the Sabbat. It is more that the systems of old are dying, their princes are being pulled away from their thrones, and those that are stepping in large lack the means to properly step up. All Caitiff have similar walks in life, regardless of whether embraced by eventually because of financial reasons or as immediately because of their vinyl collection. All Caitiff will know the uncommon hardships of discrimination of being something they cannot control and didn't ask to become. The only things kindred society hates more than you are the Duskborn, and they barely constitute as vampires. Therefore, the Caitiff seeking to embrace is likely to choose strong-willed individuals with a sense of oneself, regardless of sect affiliation. If you're not afraid to fight for the right to be remembered, not as a hero but as someone with a right to exist, then you're not worthy of that. Sure, it fits the Anarchs to a T, but not all Caitiff are Anarch. But Caitiff were around before the Anarchs and faced the injustices and genocides to their kind for many years before the Bruja, Le Sombre and Tzimisce did, who are the three of the most influential high clans in Vampire the Masquerade, who could have done this at any point in history. If change and equality was something desired, they would have reset the rules completely, disregarded and discarded the ramblings of nodists and not contributed to the destruction of Caitiff. But when the privileged few are effective, then banners of change are hoisted. To get up night after night, despite the disillusioned hierarchy, afraid of change and fearful of revolution, with the same tools as them, beating at their game is brave, inspiring and heroic. To simply exist in the face of bigotry and discrimination out of spite is applaud-worthy in of itself. With all this in mind, it is easy to see why the Caitiff lean towards the Anarchs more, and on the surface it does make sense. The social flaw of the Caitiff is non-existence in the Anarchs, because why would they care? Your clan doesn't define who you are as a person, your beliefs do, which is a message that everyone should adopt, but it's not something that the Anarchs do not perfectly follow, and the Caitiff do not get a free pass. Members of different clans have safety in numbers, subconsciously following the us versus them ideology that is much deeper than anything Camarilla versus Anarch. It's a mentality dating back to the first examples of civilization, tribes against tribe, beast against beast. The different breeds of vampire are literally called clans, a large family of common interests. Those who, with different opinions and interests, clash and lead to ruin. Paint it with a goth punk coat of paint if you want, but it is very much a kill or be killed living ideology. It is called the world of darkness for a reason, you know. The Caitiff flock together through their shared unity in being outsiders stuck at the bottom forever. Those who shoot for positions of power are crushed by the overt and subtle clan elitism. Strong lineages rule the world, and the Caitiff do not know or care without a history to define your existence. How can you be trusted beyond first pickings for the Second Inquisition? Your vampiric lineages also define what makes you weak. A Ventru cannot eat just anyone, and a Toreador is literally unlikely to freeze in place and stare at a beautiful artwork or get lost in the music, caught in a trance, and with no turning back. A Nosferatu's obfuscation can be overridden by a strong use of Auspex, and a Le Sombre should be confronted in a brightly lit room. The Caitiff are not bound by such constraints, which makes them unpredictable, and change to the ancient vampires is bad. Too much change for the Anarchs has them confront what they unravel and how the world views them. Without an identity, one can sum up in 2 to 5 words: how can anyone prove your unworth, or worth that for that matter? You are a liability and cannot be trusted. Caitiff princes, all 2 of them, were demoted of their status because of this heightened fear, and few Caitiff may exist within the Camarilla without a sponsor, not a mentor, but someone to supervise and baby them. The Caitiff are abuse survivors, knowing that there is no guaranteed space for them. There are just debatably fewer shit options. What provides better options for the players are disciplines, for the Caitiff have full access, excluding thin blood alchemy for obvious reasons, but what should they be? Well, if you're feeling uninspired, you can choose the suggested default spread found in the revised Camarilla and Anarch guides for, you guessed, 3rd/revised edition. The suggested disciplines are Fortitude, Potence, and Presence, which makes sense from a stereotypical Anarch perspective. Fortitude for taking beatings as well as mental abuse, Potence for giving beatings that could possibly cause brain damage, and Presence for the peoples dominate, using subtle influence to get what you want, rather than outright taking their will. But if we're talking about making a character, thinking too early in this guide when I was giving those examples about the clans teaching the child, the Caitiff, the importance of some of their disciplines. Yes, the blood is part of the vampire, but the way they improve is dependent on the vampire and what they deem to be important, focusing on their efforts in a certain direction. And Nosferatu does not want to be seen by anyone because they are ashamed of what they look like is going to be much better with Obfuscate than a Nosferatu strutting about with their dick out in the wind, proud of being a freak. They may be better with Potence, tapping into their inhuman aspects. Think about the Sire of your Caitiff and how they would experience their clan discipline, as well as think about what occurred within the mortal and vampiric life to manifest their other disciplines. If they spent time with animals, they suddenly started understanding how they could speak via animalism. If they have Auspex, perhaps they claimed to be a psychic or one of those poor kids who knew which members of their household was coming up the stairs based on the sounds that came up the stairs. Or if they were high up in, say, a board of directors member belonging to a LARP company running away from responsibilities, they may be pretty good at dodging claims and adulting with celerity. Some storytellers may be entitled to not allow Caitiff characters access to some of those more unique discipline powers, particularly those associated to the Tzimisce, Ravnos, and Salubri. Blood Sorcery and Oblivion may be off the table too, and I can understand that line of thinking. These special perks are not handed out willy-nilly, but you could argue that a single dot could be taught as part of those early days of the kindred getting accustomed to things, with education halting once both parties realised something went wrong. I'd encourage storytellers to be a little flexible with this, as the cast of Tremere, Hakata, and La Sombra ideas would bring lots of exciting spice to the table. With this wide range of functions, there are many ways you can bend predator types to fit your kindred concepts, but here is what I would suggest. Alicat is the most obvious fit, as plenty of Caitiff are beggars and beggars cannot be choosers, though some with closer ties to their humanity and life in general may want to seek permission first, via Consensualist or Cleaver, depending on their age and the general concept. Scene Queen would be a good fit for a Caitiff from a subculture, or feeding amongst those chosen mortal families found in the addition to Roadside Killer from Let the Streets Run Red. There is also plenty of Caitiff to see themselves as the next step in the vampiric evolution, so Osiris may aid in this strange endeavour. There are many lore sheets you can assign to your character, and the Caitiff have quite a lot to choose from, as there is no real stereotype to lean on, as any Caitiff concept is as wide, deep, and thick as your mother, but I have a few leaping off points, as it were. Caitiff that are trying to climb up the Camarilla ranking should explore some of the ones available in the Camarilla and Chicago by Night for any character to latch onto and do favours for, similarly with Anarch-related ones in Anarch and some of the Chicago by Night books, such as Juggler from Let the Streets Run Red. The Caitiff may find a new home in the various cults found in Cult of the Blood Gods, Children of the Blood, Trails of Ash and Bone, and Forbidden Religions, as well as the Cult of Mithras from Camarilla. Finally, Caitiff that may wish to play into being a harbinger of the end times may want to consider Plagues of Gehenna from Forbidden Religions and Blood Plague from Anarch. There are many ways one can build a character. Some of them are wrong, but most of them are right. Ultimately, it should be the narrative that drives the stats, powers, and mechanics that work with and against them. These are just my takes, and mine alone. How would you build a character belonging to this vampire clanless? What wouldn't you do? What would you add to shake things up and make the concept just a little spicy? Let me know into the comments below. To be kept updated, follow the Lore by Night VTM Instagram and Blue Sky pages to find out when we upload each episode. You can also find out by subscribing to the YouTube channel and clicking on the little bell, and you'll be immediately notified when the latest episode is live. Until next time, farewell.